The Toronto Raptors kind of remind me of the Atlanta Hawks in that I don't think they know whether they want to strive to get to the top of the Eastern Conference, reset, or just outright rebuild. And they say that because of the departure of Fred VanVleet. I think that kind of shocked everybody. But when they did that, that's when the questions started coming like, oh, wait a minute. Well, if you're going to get rid of Fred VanVleet, you're okay to get rid of him. Then what about, and then the names just started coming out. What about OG Anunoby? Scotty Barnes, although most people thought they'd keep Scotty Barnes. And
Yeah.
now Pascal Siakam. Nobody saw that coming. But the day is here, and everybody is clamoring at him, chomping at the bit, including the Hawks. Rumor mill has it that the Hawks have been trying to get a deal done to bring Pascal Siakam to Atlanta. But the challenge is, Jarvis, how do you get that guy here? Because you really don't have a lot in terms of draft capital, if you will, for
Yeah.
starters.
Hmm.
So the question becomes, the rumor says it depends on who you listen to, right? Dejounte Murray and DeAndre Hunter. Dejounte Murray and maybe a package deal where you might get the young guns, AJ Griffin, Jalen Johnson, or DeAndre Hunter and those young guns. But that to me, it's very interesting because I wonder to myself, especially DeJounte Murray. So that's the one I want to kind of go with first.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have to give him up at this point to get Pascal Siakam, even though you probably have to throw in some other pieces, but just focusing on losing that piece, what are your thoughts on whether or not it's worth it? Is it?
Ooh, like let me just say this. Like I really feel like at this point, if the Hawks were to trade DeJounte Murray, I would be very concerned. Here's why. I'd be concerned because I will have no idea where they're going as far as with the direction of this team. Because here's the thing: you made it a trade for him last year, 3 first-round picks, and you knew that you're gonna have 2 years of control, and then you're gonna have to figure out how to pay him if you're gonna keep him long term. So now you're in a space where essentially you're gonna trade for a guy that has 1 year left on his contract too, and then their reports are that he wants to test free agency, and he may
Yes.
even potentially come back to Toronto. That may still be on the table even after they were to trade him away. So I think that when you just talk about just that specific piece, saying that hey, this part of this regime that's still here wanted DeJounte Murray. And
Yes.
now I feel like you have to make that work. You have to make that work because you hired a coach. We talked about how Quinn Snyder essentially is going to be like a free agent addition as far as upgrading his team and making this team better. So I think that you need to continue to go with that because, like I said, if we're sitting up here talking about 48 hours from now, 72 hours from now, however long, and DeJounte Murray is a part of that trade deal, I am very concerned. I'm going to start questioning, which I already have, start questioning this new regime because like I don't like that makes the vision very muddy. Like I'm really big on seeing where the teams are going and these teams having vision, especially from the guys who are the decision makers. Like we talked about the Falcons and Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith. We get it. We know where they're going. We know where they're headed. Now it's just a matter of them putting the work and actually the end result being what it is. But now, if like you said, if DeJounte Murray isn't going to be a part of this team going into the season this year, like it's not going to be clear, and I'm going to have a lot of questions to you.
Yeah, it would be troubling to me too, because the things that were challenging in the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray backcourt duo was Trae never did kind of get to the point where off the ball was a place of comfort for him, right?
Right.
And DeJounte may have had to pull a little bit more of the offensive workload than maybe he thought he would, which
Mm-hmm.
in turn might be why his numbers were down defensively and even offensively because
Yeah.
I mean after a while you're just exhausted because you're playing a different kind of game because you're not accustomed to having to take on all of that, right? And
Right.
so what if these guys got a good front court, a better front court if you will? Wouldn't it stand to reason that one, a better front court, two, arguably arguably by most standards a better coach, and three, a second year together, wouldn't it stand to reason that maybe they would be one of the best backcourt duos? I saw one statistic that showed points to assists, and what Trae Young and Dejounte Murray were able to do, despite not gelling for the most of the season, was second only to Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. They were the only other duo in the backcourt in the history of the league that did what Trae Young and Dejounte Murray would be able to do. Imagine how much better they could make their stat line in terms of offensive efficiency, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, defensively. All of those things you haven't had a real opportunity to see for 2 years in a row, and definitely not under Quinn Snyder. That's part one. And part two, Jarvis, what concerns me is, where's your position of strength right now? I think you're fine at power forward. I do think you have probably a deeper, more talented kind of roster power forward wise. Jalen Johnson, Sadiq Bey. I mean, you can kind of move Onyeka Okongwu back and forth between the 4 and the 5. Now, those are maybe your 3 heavy hitters at small forward. If you look at what you have at shooting guard, yes, Bogey's solid, but we know he's pretty much a defensive liability. You can play AJ Griffin there as well. So, I mean, that's thought. But when you look at it, I still think there might be an edge of power forward where Quinn Snyder can groom those guys more easily than he can maybe groom the backup shooting guards to be where they need to be.
And I think that, you know, when you think about it from that standpoint as to who you have to put into place if the season were to start today, let's just put it like that. If the season were to start today, I wouldn't feel too bad about Sadiq Bey and or, you know, Jalen Johnson being in that starting lineup, because here's the thing. Like, I know that they got a full offseason with the guy, the best free agent addition so far, you know, for the Hawks, you know what I mean? So I think that I wouldn't be against, you know, those guys being there. And then to add on top of that, once you start to think about like all of the assets that you might have to give up, like we talked about Dejounte Murray, and you even talk about Onyeka Okongwu, and that's been one of the people that they want to keep around. They talking about giving them an extension. So yeah, like, it just doesn't make sense. Although I love Pascal Siakam's game, because I always thought that he's given the Hawks plenty of issues every time they went up against each other. It's just the fact that it's just too much. If we talking about him having 2 to 3 years maybe left on his contract, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's figure this bad boy out. But when you're talking about 1 year, you're talking about potentially this guy maybe returning once he becomes a free agent. And, you know, and then given the Hawks' financial situation, you know, and wanted to stay away from those aprons that we talked about. They ain't trying to cook. They're trying to stay away from those aprons. Like, this deal just doesn't make sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to package it where it could make sense. Right. Because even with the DeAndre Hunter side, I want to get your thoughts on that real quick as well. He's the other piece, whether that's DeAndre Hunter and some other pieces within the current team, like that's on the current roster, or we both know we don't want DeAndre Hunter and Dejounte Murray in that deal. Like, that to me just won't work. Right. But if it's DeAndre Hunter and a couple of other guys, is there any package that you could see that would make you feel okay about that?
Oh, wow. Given if DeAndre Hunter is the main piece that they want for whatever reason, I'm willing to listen, because here's the thing: we still don't know what he is, and like you said, he's under contract, and I feel like, you know, just from a consistency standpoint, he just hasn't been that guy. So, like, I don't know what he is. Like, yeah, you can pencil him in as a starter, yeah, okay, but I still don't know what he's going to give me night in and night out. So yeah, I still have questions with him being in the starting lineup to start the season. So I would be interested to see who they would want on top of DeAndre Hunter. And if you're talking about an AJ Griffin or a Onyeka Okongwu, I'm good, T.
I'm like, I don't know who to package that we'd be comfortable with. Yeah. You know, except DeAndre Hunter. Now, I'm going to tell you why I would be comfortable with that, because I think we do know exactly who he is. I think he's another John Collins, meaning that I believe he's probably gone as far as he can go. I don't know that there's any more that we're going to see from him from a consistency standpoint.
Yeah.
So no, I think if there were a way to do it, but it'd be very difficult because you're talking about essentially a $10 million contract versus 35. That might be a bridge that's a little bit too far to cross. But everydayers, what do you guys think? I mean, this is one of those things where we're still postulating because we're all waiting to see, will the Hawks make a big splash in free agency? And there's still time left because remember, Dejounte Murray was not a free agent last year when they acquired him. So there may be somebody lurking who's not necessarily a free agent like Pascal Siakam, but someone maybe more affordable that they might want to go after. Let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, and you can drop a comment in the chat and we will definitely maybe possibly speak on it on the show. And of course, download ATL Day Ones wherever you get your podcast.